Okay, this screencast is going to mainly cover sex-linked traits and what I want you to know about them. Before we get to sex-linked traits, let's talk about some diseases, disorders that are not sex-linked, which means are found on any of the chromosomes numbered 1 to 22. It's a good lookup. All right, the one that is most tested is called cystic fibrosis, and that is a lung disorder that you can read about. Sickle cell anemia. We'll show you a couple of pictures here. Remember, those are called autosomal, all right, because they affect another chromosome other than the sex chromosome, somewhere in between 1 to 22. All right, so if you're looking at the cross on the right here on the smart board, that would mean that any organism, a human, who is homozygous recessive, then would have these disorders here. So not all sex linked. So, and again, if it's a human recessive disorder and it's not sex linked, you're going to find out in a second that females are more likely to get just as much as males are. So it's about 50-50. They're not more likely, but likely. So autosomal human recessive disorders. So recessive disorders affecting only those homozygous recessive when you do a cross. So here, notice all the heterozygous, completely normal phenotype, and of course, homozygous dominant, completely normal phenotype. So basically, as long as one of your parents has a dominant gene, you will not have that disorder, but you can pass it on. All right. So cystic fibrosis, you can be a carrier of the gene. And that word carrier is important too, because it's usually only used when you're talking about a disease or a disorder. Do you carry the gene? Do you carry the gene? So the father and mother here are carriers, does not have, and then basically there's a 25% chance that the offspring will have it. So the sex cells have, all right? You see albinism, the different characteristics of albinism there in different organisms. You can see not only for humans. All right, we'll move on. Albinism. There's a cuties. Albinism. Oh, snake. All right, you see it there. All right, so let's get into sickle cell anemia. You know that from the circulatory system. That is when a red blood cell is an irregular shape and often gets stuck in the tiniest blood vessels, causing a great amount of pain and blood clots. There are varying degrees of the genetics of sickle cell anemia too. But don't worry about that until you are an IB, not now. All right. So let's skip over these things here. Look at that. Dominant hand disorder. Extra digit there. It's cool. All right. Some aspects of dwarfism is a human recessive disorder. All right. But let's get on to sex-linked trait, where it does matter, basically, again, it doesn't matter what sex you are, but it matters of whether you can pass that gene on or not. All right, so as you know, the sex chromosomes are characterized by the XX for a female and the XY for a male. Remember, the male gene doesn't actually look like a Y, it looks like a very short. And you should know right now there are genes on the Y chromosome. But since a female cannot have a Y chromosome, it's a sex-linked trait is often called an X-linked trait because it's only carried on the X chromosomes of the sex chromosomes. And therefore, only males can have whatever genes. And those are usually sex-determining genes that are on the Y chromosome. But the Y chromosome does have genes on it, so don't fall prey to that question where it says a Y chromosome doesn't have it, it's on the X. No, she just can't have it. The two basic disorders that are often discussed is human red-green color blindness and hemophilia. The thing to keep in mind here in a sex-linked trait, as we'll point out, it is always more common that a lady, I should say a male, strike that, a male has a sex-linked trait much more than a female. Hopefully we can demonstrate that, as you'll see in a second. So color blindness and hemophilia. So let's go through a sex-linked trait. So you see the sex chromosomes, and how do we represent it? There's only one way to represent this in a Punnett square situation. I'm going to actually take the Punnett square and move it down a little bit. I need it down. over here so I can fit the genes. So you will notice the sex chromosomes, because we need to know, this is the only kind of cross where it matters whether it's a male or a female. So we need to know whether it's a male or a female. All right. So when talking about suppose you had a male who is non-colorblind and a female who is non-colorblind but is heterozygous for colorblindness. So basically, if you put the genes, female genes generally go to the side, male to the top. Why isn't the male going to the top? That's why, because it won't fit there. We'll put the male on top in just a second. All right, so you will notice the first thing you need to put in a cross is the sex chromosomes. They are required. We need to know whether it's male or female. So this is now the fourth or fifth type of different kind of cross that we are doing that involves only one trait. So this is color blindness. So either you show it or not. Color blindness is a sex-linked recessive disorder. So if you have it, you must be recessive in this case. But here's the thing. All right, if we're going to put it in, I'm going to use an N for normal or not normal, also because it's a good letter to use. All right. If a male has color blindness or not, it's only because of the gene that is on the X chromosome. There is no gene on the Y chromosome. So often, but it's not required, to keep it in your mind, we put a dashed line there. No gene. So here's the thing. Keep in mind, note in mind, should go in your Cornell. A male only has one gene to determine a sex-linked trait, while a female will have two. So if we line her genes up here, notice a superscript. There's how you represent a heterozygote. So here's another little clue here for you. Are you listening? To go into your Cornell as a note. This is how I'm going to tell if you're listening. There can be no male heterozygotes for a sex-linked trait. No male heterozygotes. Sorry. So if you fill out this Punnett square here, as you will for an example, I'm going to use the pen here and see if I can get it in a little faster. Prob not with my bad handwriting. All right. You'll notice you've got the sex-linked disease, the genes which go in, excuse me, not the sex-linked. Be quiet while I draw. You can fast forward this to the end. All right, you get the sex chromosomes in first, noting there can be nothing on the Y, right? And then we start getting a bunch of capital N. So there we have one female homozygous dominant. And we have a male homozygous dominant. Look, yes, one gene makes him a homozygous dominant. We have one heterozygous female. Sorry, it's my crappy handwriting, excuse me. And then there we have your colorblind, all right, male. So let's go back here. Notice this, the way you show it, all right? Homozygous dominant female, homozygous dominant male, heterozygous female, homozygous recessive male. All right, so it's super important to remember right here with the arrow, this would be a carrier. So a carrier does not have the disease or have the syndrome or whatever it is, but has a gene to carry it. So you do not necessarily, you do not call someone who has the gene a carrier because we know they carry it. So a carrier phenotype presents as normal, but can pass on the gene. Okay? Homozygous dominant do not. So in this case here, 75% of the offspring normal, 25%. However, if you look here and the question says to you, what percentage of males can be colorblind? That's 50% because there are two males here in the Punnett square. 50% normal, 50% male colorblind. However, 75% of the offspring. So it makes the key word in the question, offspring, or do they talk to you about male or female? That is so super important for you to listen. Well, it's not going to listen for the question. Read the question carefully. All right? What is the percentage of girls colorblind? 0%. What is the percentage of boys colorblind? 50%. What is the percentage of offspring colorblind? 25%. What is the percentage of offspring normal? 75%. So this one standard cross, you take out the ends, you put another letter in, maybe you keep the ends for hemophilia. Normal, okay, normal, afflicted. So in the case here, a female can have 3 genotypes: homozygous dominant, heterozygous, and she could also have the homozygous recessive, okay, in the case here. Also notice, we're going to notice one more thing. A male can only have 2 genotypes, but if her father is not colorblind, there is no possibility of a colorblind female. Her father must be colorblind. So say these two are the parents here, and these two are one of the offspring. If he's not already colorblind, the female cannot. So any normal male cannot have a female offspring who is colorblind. So in a sense, again, it's the female who controls whether the male is going to be colorblind or not. There's the gene. If that gene goes into the male zygote, he is colorblind. So there's a lot of things to keep in and out here. And I'm glad I did this by teaching by my voice. So that this way you can copy some notes down, play me over again. Better yet, watch my good friends, the Amoeba Sisters. That's going to be attached to this. They will go through it, and you will be able to get some notes in there. All right, this is going to be Cot signing off on Sex Linked Trade.